Right, good afternoon. It's Amber from Blooms on the Hill, and I'm in the greenhouse. Obviously, I've just done a heap of seed sowing today, and I did some yesterday. It's the 1st of August, so it's the last month of winter. And for a lot of seeds that are summer annuals, from now onwards, August through till probably December or so, depending on the seed, it's time to start seeds. So I'm actually in a temperate climate, being up a bit higher. I think I'm sort of somewhere in between cool and temperate. Maybe I'm more cool. I don't know. I certainly know that things bloom later here than they do in Ballara, which is the nearest town to me, which is just sort of, oh, it's just less than 15 minutes down the hill that way. So just that little bit colder, but I do tend to start things a little bit later, but tend to juggle. So lots of seeds I'll start indoors where there's a fire. There's things that are started in here, which I may actually move out like into the house once things that are in the house have germinated, and then bring them out here. So it's a juggle. It's a space thing for me. Anyway, some of the stuff I've started indoors, if you're curious, is some... I started straw flowers in June, a few more of those, so I did a whole bunch of different colors, and they were actually seeds I saved from last year, and they came out here for a while. I've just actually moved them because I'm going to try and put them in the ground. I've also got inside at the moment, I have some asters, so an apricot and a white. I have some Chinese forget-me-not. I have a bit more statice. There is a little bit of statice out here that I've moved out here, but a bit more statice, just because I'm thinking about all the extra flowers I want for drying if I do end up with a bit of a stall space, which is basically a shelf space in a new shop that's opening up in Moora North. So if I end up getting a spot in there, then I'll need some stuff to get me through winter, so hence dried flowers. So I will grow a bit more of that. I've got some heavenly blue inside and some apricot and a bit of all different colors that are still in there, and a little bit out here I can't remember because I didn't write down the colors. I also have some marigolds indoors, which are a tender annual, so you need to wait until their risk of frost is over before they come out. So I've marked that tender on the tray so that I don't forget. But I have a lovely bright orange one. It's an African Savannah, I think it was called. I did see that on some other people's YouTube videos, they had marigolds, beautiful orange ones that look beautiful dried. So I thought I'll give those a go, and that's a lovely long stemmed cut flower variety. And I also got a one called Kilimanjaro, which is a cream, so they're also indoors. I have some California poppies, and what else do I have? I can't remember now off the top of my head. Trying to think. Oh, yes, no, that might be about it. Oh, some celosia. There you go. I did some celosia a little bit yesterday and some today. So some flamingo feather. There was another one I started. Here's the label. Starts with X, so I can't pronounce it. It's Xantippe or something. Don't know. It looks quite familiar. It's quite similar, not familiar, similar to flamingo feather. So it's a little pink spike. And I've also got lots of celosia seeds that I saved from last year. So I had Texas plume and sort of a sherbet kind of a mix. So I saved those. They were pretty easy to save. I've got lots of those. So they've gone indoors. They're also a tender annual as well. So just meaning that they don't love the frost. They were also one I needed to be quite careful with because they need light to germinate. So in here, just to run you through it quickly, I've got some lavandera, which was new on a veggie and flower garden seeds. When we first moved to the farm, which was 2017, it was the end of August, so just coming into spring, and where I park my car, there was this very large bush with these big, large pink flowers on it, and had no idea what they were, but they were lavandera. I was quite confused as to why that bush wasn't there the next year, because it was an annual. This is when I knew nothing about plants at all. But I bought some of those seeds, so I've got one called pink regus, and a white one, and then another pink one. So the two pink ones were different. So I've got some of that. I've actually started some sunflowers. Didn't have any sunflowers last year, but I've got one called Turbo Teddy, which is a little bit of a ruffly one. It's apparently a cut flower one. Sunflowers, if you haven't grown them as cut flowers, the big ones are stupid. You can't, to cut those, they're very tricky. Also, they don't love being taken to a farmer's market. People used to love seeing them at the farmer's market, but they would buy them and then they would walk around with them and they would literally fall apart. You also need to harvest sunflowers when the petals are quite folded over. Probably another story, but I'm doing some this year and I'm going to plant them quite close together so that the blooms are a little bit smaller. So trying some of those. I quite like the fluffy ones. So that's the Turbo Teddy. And on the website where I got them, from the seed collection, it did say they made good cut flowers. The other one, I've started Double Dazzler. So that's, I can't remember quite what that one looked like, but different to this Teddy one. So I've got some of those too. Also another one that is good for cuts. So we'll try those. I've also started, some honeywort. That's inside. So if you haven't grown honeywort, that's quite good. It's got a lovely sagey green, very squelchy feeling foliage and little tiny purple flowers on it. So it's nice actually as a foliage more than anything. So some of that as well. I also have started some illegal vegetables. So I've got some Roma tomatoes and another type that I started today, wherever they've gone, in here somewhere. Oh yeah, they're called Burnley Shore. That's what they are. I have started, what else today? I've got some kangaroo paw, and it's a lime green one, so I never started anything like that. A bit of Persian cress and some pincushion flower, the drumstick type. That's a good dried one. So once again, thinking of dried flowers. And I've started some gyp. This was inside and this germinated. So I've brought that outside. And Gypsophilia, the Covent Garden. This was seeds that came in my seed subscription, which I have with DHS Seeds. So every month I get a little packet of seeds. There's usually 6 different packets of things that are cut flower varieties. So some of this came. This is not normally something that I'd really have, but this will be a nice fill. So happy it's germinated. So there's that. I've also started some salvia today. Salvia tricolor. So it's, I think the colors were purple, pink and white. And a bit more status. And capsicums I started yesterday, and that's the sunflower Double Dazzler. So there's not, I've been moving things out of here. I moved a whole lot of the straw flowers out, so I'll try and plant those today. And I've still got these cosmos, which aren't looking quite as ridiculous. They're now getting these little extra leaves here, the little fuzzy bits. I might actually plant these out in the hoop house today. I'll have to fix some windows that are broken, but I need to sort of keep shifting things so that they can, because I've got lots of seeds to start. So I'll show you what the other things that I'll be starting this month. These are all my straw flowers, very crowded in their little cells there, but that's all right. Well, you can actually move these about a bit, so I'm just going to plonk them out in a garden bed, and then I will be able to shift them later. But they're quite small, the seeds, and I was probably getting bored of doing it, so I probably just spread them haphazardly everywhere. But yeah, they'll go out in the garden. This bag has got lots and lots of packets of seeds that I have to plant. It's ridiculous. So this is the August stuff in here. Right, so there's a Celosia Texas Plume. Try and get a bit more of that out this month. And there was another one that was spiky, pale pink and hot pink. I can't remember, but their seeds I saved. So that was quite easy. I just let the plant die right, like it dried right off, and then the seeds came out really easily. I had some amaranth, so the hot chili one, that was another seed I saved. So got to get that in. There's a bit more of that. There's quite a bit of that. I also have left to do for this month. I'm going to need my glasses because I can't see anything. Oh, I did buy some amaranth, some hot biscuits, which is like a sort of a beigey, biscuity colour, as the name suggests. That will be interesting. it's a little bit of a sort of a drooping one, so that'll be fun. I've got some phlox, Blushing Bride. I have more phlox, the Warm Romance mix, and a cherry caramel one, a couple of things of that, and then also creme brulee. So, and actually that's all. So I've got another stack of stuff in my September envelope to start. I did do a lot of seeds actually in the last couple of days, but I wanted to get a bit of a jump on it. So there's lots there to do still, but I'm going to pace them out a bit. Now, you need to think about, of course, your location and your zone, your growing zone. I know in places like America it's different. You have like all those numbers with your growing zones. But we work on cool, temperate, tropical, subtropical, I think arid as well is another one. There might be another one. I don't know, can't remember. But that's the seeds to go for that month. And then I have quite a lot more. Like September's this massive packet of things. I've got zinnias to start too, which you can also start in August, and celosia, but I've held them back till September, and that is because I am just that little bit cooler here. So I'm not celosia, cosmos and zinnias. Zinnias, if I plant them out too early here, because it is a bit cooler, they tend to sulk and they'll go in the ground and then they just won't grow. They just sit there and look at me and be angry, I'm assuming. And the Cosmos too, it's another tender one. So just holding that back a month. I am going to put Cosmos in that hoop house with the hope for this wedding that I'm doing early November. If it may or may not grow, we'll see how it goes. But to put it outdoors, I'm just going to hold it off until, I know that says August there, but September stuff, and start doing successions of zinnias, because I've got a lot of zinnias, but a colour palette, so pink, whites and apricots in terms of zinnias. I think I also got the Benary's Giant Wine and the Benary's Lime Green one too. So I've got enough packets of each to sort of over 4 months to do successions. So that's what I'm doing there. And I've also got quite a bit to do in October, and then November. There's some more wherever that one is. November. And then December, not so many in December. Busy. You know, I wasn't going to start this many seeds this season, so I'm a little bit alarmed, and I'm quite concerned about the space I'm going to have out there. Even though I've got a paddock, I'm going to be making garden beds everywhere. So, which is what I need to do for these straw flowers here. I actually need to build a garden bed for them so I can put them out. So that will probably be the next job today. Fun. As you can see, it's another beautiful day. Apparently we're in for quite a bit of nice weather now, which is great. You can see things are starting to really grow. I'm getting quite nervous because this wedding I'm doing in November is only 3 months out. But they're still, yep, they're growing. It doesn't look like it, but they are. So I need to make this bed, another bed over here for these straw flowers. I'm not really fussed where, but this is the space I've got. This was the last one I built, and it's full of snapdragons. So I'll probably just start up here and put another one in this space here for them and get them out. But it's a gradual thing, because I start to hurt, my back pinches on nerves and makes my leg hurt, so I can only do a little bit at a time. So that's probably what we'll do this afternoon. I have a self-seeded Cosmos. It's teeny tiny. This is some status, which is bushing up nicely, and it's flowering. This is the second one that's done this. It's quite funny. So I just wanted to just do a quick, this is what I'm planning in August. Is anybody else sowing anything interesting? It is the time to start. It's always weird now because this is the last month of winter, and then you've got to start thinking about your summer annuals. But just to keep a few things in mind, if you've never sown any seeds before, they are all different. It's not just a matter of chucking them in the dirt and then letting them go. Some things prefer to be started in trays. Some things actually prefer to be sown direct because they don't like root disturbance. Although I find that things that are like that, I don't actually have trouble with them. They say zinnias don't like their roots being disturbed, but I start them in trays, and I do plant them out carefully, get them out of the cells carefully and pop them in the ground, and it doesn't affect them. So, and the reason I do start things in trays like that is because putting things direct in the ground, you're then competing with weeds. So sometimes you're thinking, is that a weed coming up? Is that the seedling? Once you get to know different seedlings and what they look like, then you're more likely to go, okay, that's the plant and not a weed. But to start with, it can be quite tricky. So that's why I start in trays. The other thing you might need to take care of with seeds is, do they need cold stratification? So if you see they need stratification, it means that they need a period of cold, whether it's in the freezer or the fridge, a couple of weeks or whatever. If you look up seed books or the websites where you bought them from, often they'll say what kind of treatment that they need before you actually plant them. So for example, the kangaroo paw needed smoke treatment. I'd never seen that before, but being an Australian native, that made sense. So if you're overseas and you haven't heard of this, a lot of seeds, like a lot of Australian plants, they will come back after a bushfire, or some of them will actually need fire to germinate. So obviously these kangaroo paw, they appreciate a bushfire, and that helps them to germinate. So it was quite involved in creating a little fire, and preferably with some gum leaves to hold the seeds over the smoke. So anyway, that was interesting. Other seeds, you might find that they need light to germinate. So often it'll tell you, like usually it should, tell you how far down to sow your seeds. So if it says 0 millimeters, that means it just needs to go on the top. 1 millimeter, that's pretty much close to the top as well. But it will often say if it needs light to germinate, which means literally your seeds need to be exposed to the light, otherwise they won't germinate. So in those instances, you'll need to bottom water your seeds. So if you can put your cell tray in like a solid container underneath that, so that you can just put water in and it will soak it up through the bottom, and then you can spritz carefully from the top. That's my little electric spray thing. You'll need to do that, otherwise you'll risk blowing all your seeds away, so be careful with that as well. The other thing is seeds that might need darkness to germinate, and that is the weirdest one ever, because it does seem to go against anything that you've ever thought before. And one of those, of course, was larkspur, which I started those under cardboard boxes, were over the tops of the trays, and I actually had really good germination, first time ever. Phlox is the same. So I've only ever tried phlox once and had terrible germination. I think one came up and then it got eaten by slugs. So which slugs do like phlox, and they also like larkspur. But so now I know this time to start my phlox underneath, perhaps some newspaper over the top, bit of cardboard, whatever, and hopefully we'll get better germination with those. So I hope all of that makes sense. I'm sure there's other little tips and tricks that you might know of as well, you might want to share. I like learning more about sowing seeds, but it's lots of fun, and you feel like you're really in control of the world when you get a plant that actually grows for you. So anyway, have fun. If you're going to sow any seeds this August, let me know what you're sowing, and if there's anything great that you think that makes a good cut flower, a filler, foliage even. I've got some eucalyptus to start. Maybe it's next month, I can't remember, but there's a few that I want to start as foliage. And happy seed sowing. I'll catch you next time.